So how does a scrawny kid from a country best known for its hockey become two-time MVP of the NBA? Well, as Richard Mendez and David Grappentine show us, humble beginnings is where it all began for Steve Nash.
As you sail the beautiful coastline of Canada's British Columbia, you can't help but to wonder what amazing life forms dwell in this heavenly setting. Vancouver Island's Victoria is world-renowned for its wondrous whale watching. But there's something far greater that hails from these parts. Never known for his size, Steve Nash is the biggest attraction this little island has ever produced. Steve attended St. Michael's University School, where under the guidance of coach Ian Hyde-Lay, he began a journey into history as Canada's best basketball player ever.
I think he was, well, in my 25 years as a high school coach, the most competitive person I've ever come across. Just almost deranged in his desire to get better. Almost every Sunday morning, you know, he was back in the gym, 9 in the morning, working. His stats, I think, were a little bit meaningless in that he could have scored a lot more if he wanted to. You know, he was unselfish to a fault back then as well. Games, or maybe sometimes if I felt the team needed a bit of a kickstart, I think on a couple of occasions I said to him, you know, Steve, if I had your kind of talent, you know, I'd be a little bit embarrassed by how you're playing right now. And you could just see, you know, that the emotion well up in him, and he would just come out in the second half and just explode. I mean, as a coach, you just sat back and just enjoyed the show.
Nash was quickly becoming a star in BC, but his game didn't garner much attention south of the border. With no scholarship offers and Steve's basketball future in doubt, Hyde-Lay reached out to several schools on his behalf.
In the letter, I clearly indicated, look, I understand, 6'1" white guy from Canada, unknown coach, unknown program, but I asked them to reference Ken Shields, the national team coach. Most of them didn't. And I'm thinking, oh, I just can't believe somebody this good is gonna not get an offer. Ironically, we did not write to Santa Clara. Scott Graydon, the Santa Clara, I think, volunteer assistant, you know, just saw him and just made that initial pursuit. And then I think, you know, by the time Dick Davey came up here for the provincial championships in March of '92, you know, he was like looking around thinking, God, I hope nobody else is here, because the guy's a pretty good player.
Destined for Santa Clara, Nash was ready to leave his home in Victoria, where he spent several hours a day competing against younger brother Martin. They grew up here, where locals say the Nash Brothers' growth marks are still etched on their old bedroom door. The two shared time on the court together playing for Coach Hyde-Lay.
Martin himself was a wonderful player, in many ways as skillful as Steve. Very skillful, really quick, and a superb shooter. Interestingly, in Martin's senior year, he absolutely shattered the Island single-game scoring record. He scored 55 points in 25 minutes, and I think the way he was going that night, he might have had 80 if we'd left him in there. As good a shooter as Steve is, Marty may have been better.
It's been 15 years since he left St. Michael's, but Steve still remembers those who supported him in the infancy of his career.
I always hear back when he does come back to school that, you know, he remembers the support staff, the guy who works in the kitchen, the janitor, you know, he remembers those people and takes time to talk to them, and that's just who he is. To me and our family, he's been astonishingly generous, you know, since he's left school. For example, I have a good friend in Ontario whose son's best friend is battling cancer right now. You know, Steve's lined up, you know, gear, signed stuff that was good. You know, guy's a basketball huge fan, and that's just typical of what he does. Every time they came to Vancouver, to Seattle, you know, it's always, you know, he arranges tickets and just does everything that you know that we need. We this past spring we were in Phoenix for a week, and he laid everything on. It was absolutely brilliant. That's what makes him, you know, a true global superstar, is that, you know, he's a great player, but he's doing as much or even more off the court, and I think it makes Victorians, British Columbians, Canadians extremely proud.